Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Heloise, and if you haven't met me before, I'm one of the most copied popular investors on eToro, the world's leading social investing platform. My portfolio is followed by more than 175,000 people. Now, a few weeks ago, I was at the Wired Smarter conference in London to talk more specifically about social investing. And one of the most commonly asked questions I got after the session was, why did you choose eToro specifically? Because my talk was about how technology is disrupting the financial service. I've been on eToro since 2016, and back then I did a really in-depth analysis of all of the platforms that were available to me at the time to make sure that I was choosing the one that would give me not only the greatest advantage in my financial journey, but also met all of my needs that I had. So, of course, once I got all these questions about why I chose eToro, I thought, why not revisit that in 2022? It's been 6 years on, the game has changed slightly, some players have left, a lot of new platforms have come into this space, and I thought it would be really interesting to see, why did I join eToro? Are all of those reasons still true? And more importantly, would I still choose eToro in 2022? So without further ado, here are the top 3 reasons why I chose eToro, and at the end I'll reveal whether I would choose eToro again in 2022. So stay tuned for that. So, reason number 1, low fees. Fees are probably the most important thing that a potential investor has to think about when they're choosing their platform. And here's exactly why it's so important. So here's a practical example of how I decided the importance of fees when choosing a platform. Back in 2016, when I was looking for a platform, I was a mature student. I was in my early 20s and I had about 45 years to retirement. So I did this quick calculation in a spreadsheet one evening. I basically thought if I had $10,000 or pounds, any currency, to invest for this 45 years, and I chose a very sort of moderate return, 6%. The stock market gives around 10%, but I said, worst case scenario, what if I invested this money with a 6% per annum return for the next 45 years? That $10,000 would turn into $130,000 or pounds over the 45 years. That's assuming I chose eToro. That didn't have any commissions, but they do have a 0.09% spread fee. So that's important to calculate. That's already included in this calculation. At the time, the other platforms, the industry standard was around between 0.3 and 0.5%. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and we say we chose an alternative platform that had a 0.35% fee or commission. At the end of the 45 years, the same £10,000 would end up being just over £110,000. So immediately I've paid almost £20,000 in fees. Now, say I chose an actively managed fund, or I chose a slightly higher fee of about 1.35%, which was my alternative at the time, I would end up with just over £70,000. So that means by making one single decision, choosing a structure that has low fees, I could almost double the amount that I end up with after 45 years. And that was a really powerful example to me about why choosing a low fee structure was important. 1.35, 0.35, 0.5%. These don't sound like a lot, but when they compound over multiple years, they do end up eating into your final portfolio. So keep that in mind. Reason number 2 was a low entry barrier. Back then, I was a mature student. I was doing my PhD, so I didn't have a lot of money to invest. But also, because I was having a go at investing myself, I didn't want to risk a lot of my capital. I wanted to take a few $100s to make sure that I understood and was willing to commit the time and effort that was required to manage my own portfolio. So I had to choose a platform that allowed me to make small enough investments and get a good diverse portfolio. eToro was one of the first in the UK to allow fractional stocks, and that was a real game changer for retail investors like myself. Let me explain to you in this example exactly why that was important. So as I mentioned, eToro was one of the first to allow fractional trading. So let's look at a platform that does not allow this. What was the scenario without this option? Well, if I had $1,000 to invest and I went to some platform, I picked a couple of stocks, some which my friends were buying, some that I knew, but I basically had to buy the stock at its current market price. I had to buy one full stock. So that means for this combination, I could get these stocks. Once I've picked all the stocks that I've wanted, I have money left over. So I'm then either forced to buy something that I don't really want, or I'm forced into buying penny stocks with the cash that's left over, which is really not the place where you want to be as an investor. It's really risky, really volatile, and it's sort of what has put the retail investor off the stock market for all these years. So now I'm left with cash. Cash is not a bad thing in a portfolio, but cash is a bad thing in a portfolio if you're forced to have it. If this person joined this platform, immediately almost 10% of their cash is not invested in the stock market. And it's not by their choice. It's simply that they have to buy full stock. The second thing that is quite worrying in this scenario is if you look at the percentage contribution. A sort of general rule of thumb states that if you want to have a portfolio that's not overexposed to a single stock, you shouldn't have more than 5, maximum 10% exposed to a single stock. Immediately, because this person had to buy the full shares, they're overexposed. They're overexposed to a single stock by the sheer fact that they had to buy the full stock and they didn't have large sums of money to begin with. So they're almost immediately penalized by this structure. In a second scenario, if you took the same $1,000, but you chose a platform that allowed fractional shares, the scenario looks entirely different. In this case, this person can use their $1,000 and assign it according to percentage contributions that they want to have. Because now they don't have to buy the full stock. They can simply buy a part of the stock, a fraction of the stock. Immediately, the retail investor has been empowered to be able to put together a portfolio in the percentage contributions that they would want. So in this scenario, not only can this person buy a wider variety of stocks and get their portfolio more diversified, but more importantly, they can allocate all of the money almost immediately if they wanted to. As I said, cash is not a bad thing in a portfolio, but when you're forced to have it, it's a bit of a dead zone. So in this case, this person is not only able to allocate all of their investment right from the start, but they're also able to do it in percentage contributions that they feel are in line with their strategy. And finally, reason number 3. Transparency and ease of use. Now, this is a really important one because it's difficult to quantify. It will vary from person to person exactly what your requirements are here. But also, it's probably the most important thing that will end up influencing your experience. A year before I joined eToro, I had joined another platform with exactly the same intentions. But because it was really difficult to navigate the platform, I found that I never really did anything. I didn't really commit to the experience. And for all intents and purposes, the money that I had loaded onto the platform was just, sat there doing nothing. And so when I went back to revisit my decision a year later, I realized that ease of use and transparency was a very important requirement for me, because that would essentially determine my whole experience and my commitment to this whole process. As soon as I logged onto the eToro platform, I liked the social feeds. I liked that I could see what people were talking about. I liked that I could sort of participate or not participate in those debates and contribute. I liked the intellectual stimulation that I could find on the feeds. These platforms keep changing, and so do your requirements. So keep reviewing them and keep making sure that they're easy to use and that you are ready to commit and interact with that interface, because essentially that's the only way you're gonna learn, is if you're interacting with it on a regular basis. For me, eToro at the time felt very intuitive to use compared to other platforms, and that was really important. But the other part was the transparency that the platform allowed. For the first time back in 2016, I found a platform where you could see what other investors were doing. You could see what other investors were saying, what they were thinking, and you could choose to participate in that thought process or in those debates. And that was something that I absolutely loved about the eToro platform that I couldn't find anywhere else. So finally, the most important question. If I had to make that decision in 2022, would I still choose eToro compared to all the other competitors that are out there? The answer is yes. Here's why. Firstly, fees. Please look out for those. They are the main culprit for eating into your profits if you're not careful. For me, I want a platform that has low fees when I'm learning, because when I was learning, I didn't want to be scared to take a position. And there's something really crucial about actually opening that position or buying that stock as compared to saying, oh, I would have made that decision if I had the money. So it's really important to learn through a few mistakes, but the most important thing is that those mistakes should not be too costly. And low fees are a great way to allow you to learn how to invest without paying high fees. As I said, fees are really important. They can really eat into your long-term profits. And eToro is still one of the most competitive in terms of its zero commission structure. So that is a big win for me. Number two is the low entry. At only $10 per trade, it's almost unheard of to find a platform that allows such a small investment. This means that with only $100, you can have a well diversified portfolio if you choose, say, 10 or 8 different stocks. You shouldn't wait until you have a large amount of money saved up to start investing. The sooner you start, no matter how small, the sooner your portfolio can start to grow. So for that reason, again, eToro wins for me. And finally, choosing a user experience that you will actually use. And that's probably the most important thing out of all three. I've had some experiences with signing up and wasting time with platforms that I just did not end up using, even though I had put money into them. And that wasted my valuable time in making my money grow. So try out the platform, get hands-on with it, and make sure it's a user experience that resonates with you. Make sure it's something that you feel comfortable. Something simple as, does it log in easy? Is it easy to see your portfolio? One of the previous platforms that I used, it was really clunky and difficult to log in, and it just put me off the whole experience, even though it's something so simple. So that's my review of platforms and why I chose eToro back in 2016. 2016 and why I would still choose it today in 2022 if I have to make that decision again. I hope that helps you to think about some of the things you might have to consider when you're choosing a platform to start your investment journey. Let me know in the comments section what your requirements are for a platform. If you want to see more of my content, remember to subscribe. Until next time, bye now.